Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the number one most valuable real estate community in existence. Super excited, grateful for everybody that's going to be joining us today. We're here to compound our efforts and get 1% better each day. We've been having some great conversations. Good morning, Dalton. Good morning, John. Good morning, Sammy, Victor, Dennis, Gif, Peggy, Montso, Laura, Sufyan. Good morning. Let's send out some messages in the chat. We'll get some people to pop in here. We're joining the daily live stream to connect with the top 1% of professionals in this community. Send that out here. Tag everybody. Let them know we're getting started. Beautiful. How's everybody doing today? Off to a great start. Where's everybody joining from? Take advantage of this opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, to let people know where you're at in the world, what market you're working. We had some incredible people come and join us yesterday. Good morning, good morning. We've got Fort Worth, Texas in the house, Virginia, Central Pennsylvania, Jackson, Mississippi. We're all over the place, ladies and gentlemen. Brownsville, Texas, welcome. Utah, welcome. You'd be surprised, I'm telling you, just by letting people know what market you're in, what you're up to, where you're buying. Deals, opportunities, they present themselves in this very room. Damien is in the coastal VA Hampton Roads area, does some DMV stuff too. These are the people you want to get in proximity with, ladies and gentlemen. So again, I thank you all for coming to join us today. Gio's at the gym, he's listening in. Hey, this is the best thing you can put on right now. You can always listen to music, but you can't always get in the room with the people that are trying to get better, 1% better, each and every single day. That's right. Thank you for joining us. Beautiful, ladies and gentlemen. We're off to an amazing start. I want to, of course, always let the room know to feel free, at any time, come and join us up on the stage, introduce yourself, let people know what you do, where you're at, and how they can work with you. Yesterday, we talked about how to pivot. We obviously broke down our goals in the first 1% better stream. Now I want to talk about the general chat. If you guys are not paying attention to the sauce that's being dropped on a daily basis in the general chat, you all are missing out. Yesterday, I talked about how I made a couple offers on the phone. Obviously, I was pounding the phone. We wrapped up with the live stream. I got to making calls. I'm talking to leads. I'm following up. I'm booking appointments. I'm making verbal offers. And just because I was talking about what I was actually doing in my day-to-day, I've got some invaluable feedback from Mr. Matt Riley, the one and only, who'll probably be joining us at some point here. But I want to talk about it because I found that it was so relevant to me. I'm sure that it's going to be relevant to everybody that's in here. And it's really boiling down and honing in on what your actual processes look like. So yesterday, I'm thinking I'm having some great conversations. We got Mr. Jason Casco in the building, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in, Jason. And I'm making these calls. I'm talking to these people, and I'm making offers, right? I'm talking to them, I'm underwriting the deal, I'm showing them how I'm coming up with my offer, I'm educating these sellers on how I'm arriving at my offer price so that they understand that I'm not just shooting in the dark and making them a lowball offer that's just ridiculous and trying to rob them. And I wanted to get a verbal acceptance before I sent out a formal offer. And I put that in the chat that, hey, I was making these offers and people were declining the offers, right? But I was making the offers. And Matt says, no, you got to send them an email. You got to send them something. They gotta be able to see the document in front of them. And he goes on to talk about why it's so important to do that. Because he's absolutely right. These people are not going to save your contact info. They are not going to remember you from Adam calling them, telling them, a number that really doesn't mean anything to them at that moment in time. And they'll likely have no way to get back in contact with you if their life circumstance changes. Very, very important. So one thing that I'm immediately going to implement is every single offer moving forward, and Matt just joined us, I am going to get the seller's email, and I'm going to make sure that I use Claude or whatever to write at very least, an LOI, but more importantly, a formal purchase and sale agreement. And here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to leave it sent in their inbox for them to sign before I sign. It's not going to be signed by me, so I got to get a notification that they have signed before I go back, review my offer to them, sign, and then submit it to title. But I wanted to really highlight that because that was one of those moments that we have frequently in here, especially, if you're first getting started, you're going to have these light bulb moments. But it had been a while since I'd had one. That was definitely a wake-up call. And that only happened because I was talking about what I was doing throughout the day in the general chat. So I really want to reiterate the importance of just showing up and literally talking about what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, because the people that are in this room right now and the general chat and the community in general, they can be a resource you didn't even know existed. We know we got access to the money. We know we got access to the deal flow. But to get access to somebody that has experience, that has maybe different systems, that can look at your business and your current process and make a suggestion, a slight suggestion that could probably change everything, can be a game changer. So of course, I will continue to encourage everybody to just be as active as possible and share, what's going on. We got Mr. Woods with the new Novation Live. Let's take a look where this is at. Glenolden, Pennsylvania. On the market for $220, a 3.2, 1,100 square foot home. 11 hours, 118 views, 9 saves. Sounds like that one's getting some traction, Dalton. If you've got some time, I'd love for you to hop up and tell us, a little bit about the deal, how you found the seller, what that conversation looked like, what was their situation. I think that would be great, for people in here to listen and understand, how this even happened. We'll see if we caught Dalton at a good time. As we're talking here, I just received a list of expenses, profit and loss sheet. I got financials on a property just emailed to me here for a self-storage facility and mobile home park. I got to go back. I know I'm waiting on somebody. I have the name here. So I'm going to go and I'm going to take a look. Oh, gotcha. Okay. Today's Wednesday. Yep. We got it. So we have everything we need now to hop back on that call. So I have a call scheduled with him today. And before today, on Monday, I followed up with him via text just to remind him of our appointment and to make sure, that he would get that information sent over to me before we continue our call. Beautiful. So what is everybody else working on today? What are some things that we're working towards in our businesses to try to push the needle? As much as I'd love to hop up on here and talk all about myself, really, the focus is really on you all and making sure that everybody in here is getting better. Good morning. Frederick's saying they're going to send out 10 to 15 offers a day. That would be phenomenal. You know, if you're at the point where you're talking to 10 to 15 motivated sellers that are ready to receive an offer a day, you know, how many people are you going through that are not motivated and ready to go right now? A ton. Geo, currently working with a realtor here in Brownsville, producing a volume of off-market deals. Yesterday, I had a great conversation with a guy that works for an investment firm specifically for mobile home parks. This guy, they have literally thousands of pads, and it really opened my eyes to what's really possible. You know, we're talking about, at least the background that I had and where I was coming from, you know. We're having conversations with people talking about houses that are maybe worth, you know, $150,000, $200,000, right? We're getting on the phone and now we're talking about, you know, multiple hundreds of units and tens of millions of dollars. And that was an eye-opening moment for me because the way that, you know, we were discussing this was just so casually. You know, this is totally normal now. And at one point, you know, this would have definitely felt, you know, a little exciting, you know, very exciting to say the least, to be talking about an opportunity where, you know, there's a potential to earn, you know, $1 million. I'm telling you that these opportunities are out there to earn multiple six figures per deal, upwards of $1 million per deal. I know people that have done it, and it's a matter of time until it happens. And to have these conversations is always an eye-opening experience because there are so many levels to the game. You might think that, you know, you're doing really well right now, or you might think that, you know, you're not doing what you want to be doing, but I promise you, there's somebody 10 steps ahead and there's somebody 10 steps behind. So that put a lot into perspective for me, just to be mindful of where I'm at in my journey and to be grateful for where I'm at in my journey. I want to know how many people in here, we got 25 people in here, how many of you all have closed a deal this year? And how many of you all are still working towards getting one done? I kind of want to read the room, get an idea of where everybody's at. Welcome in, Cassie. Still working on it. Sammy has closed deals this year. Right on. Dalton's closing deals. Carlos working on it. We got Mr. Matt Riley editing these photos beautifully. He's about to drop the sauce on how he gets the best listing pictures. Well, I want to address, you know, some people that are just working towards their next deal now. And I want to ask you, I want to pose the question, what are you doing right now to actually get closer to that next deal? What actionable steps are you taking today, yesterday, and tomorrow to actually get one step closer to closing that next deal? Do we know what those steps actually look like? And I know that it sounds fundamental, it sounds rudimentary, it sounds elementary, but it's so critical that you remind yourself of the actual activities that bring you closer to getting to that next deal. It's quality conversations with motivated sellers. That's it. Submitting offers to these sellers that are motivated. That's it. Talking to people that aren't really serious on a daily basis, making random cold calls. You're looking for the needle in the haystack. You're spending hours of time that you could be spending, you could be allocating specifically to talking to people that are already interested in having a conversation, to trying to find those people. So I want people to start to wake up. We're in 2026 now. It doesn't make any sense, you know, for you to be cold calling. You need to be talking to people that are already interested in having a conversation about selling their house or property or whatever. Cassie says, to be honest, I barely just started. I got deal machine to look for leads, and I drive around. I think I'm still trying to learn how to give offers, like the math behind it. Does anybody have a deal? Let's look at a deal. Yesterday, I liked that we brought up a deal. We had a real situation where somebody was actually trying to underwrite and make a serious offer. I'd be happy, to underwrite a deal, whether that's single family or commercial. We can do them both. Who's got a lead in here, that seems motivated, they do want to sell, but maybe they just don't know what they can reasonably offer them. Or maybe that lead is motivated, but they want a little bit more than ARV times 70% minus repairs. And maybe that house is in livable condition today. Frederick, I'll invite you up, Frederick. Let's talk about the lead that you've got. And I want to turn it into a learning experience, learning opportunity for everybody in here. We can walk through how we'd actually find comparable properties and make an offer. See, a lot of people, they get caught up on this formula that's been, floating around for the last decade of, okay, well, I got to find a property, then I'm going to look at ARV, I'm going to multiply that by 0.7%, I'm taking 30% off the top, and then I've got to subtract repairs. That's a nice formula in theory, but what's better than, making offers based off of theoretical numbers is looking at actual as-is sale data. You can't beat that. You know what a buyer in the area is looking for. We got Mr. Sadai in the audience, ladies and gentlemen. We're in the presence of greatness. Wonderful to see everybody today. I can share the lead, but not sure if someone will steal it or not. I can assure you that if there's anybody in this room that would have that sort of intent to try to snake you or go behind your back, those people get weeded out every time. I have a lead that is only interested in selling their property if they net 60K. Well, let's talk about that. Why? Why is that number important to them? That's the first question I'd ask to them. Number one, do the numbers make sense to be able to offer them 60K or allow them to walk away with 60K? I don't know what their balance are, if they have any liens on the property or whatever, but what would that number look like relative to what's selling in the area? These are all things you'd have to consider. Okay, we got a property, Brea Crest Street in Houston. Happy to take a look at this for you. The first thing, I'm going to just walk through my whole thought process on this. So I'll share my screen. And I'll just show you the first thing that comes to my mind. Okay. All right, everybody, I'm going to go. Hopefully you can see the screen. And then let's walk through how I'd be coming up with the offer. So the first thing that I see when I'm looking at this is, number one, it catches my eye. It's listed for sale by owner, right? This is what I'm looking at when I'm looking at a property. I want to see the bed, bath, and square footage first. Okay, 4 beds, 1 bath, 1,200 square feet. They're asking $205. All right. It's built in 1961, and I'm looking at the type of house we're talking about here, right? So it looks like they have some pretty decent photos. It's not in bad shape. Maybe this was a rental, and the tenants moved out. I mean, this doesn't look like a dream home, by any means, by any stretch of the imagination, right? So that's just some things that come to my mind. Here's really what is going to tell us the story about the property. It's been on the market, listed for sale by owner for 41 days. Okay. 565 views, 26 saves. That's not as important to me. I want to see days on market, and then I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to look at the price history. So it looks like it got listed for sale for the first time February 5th, 2026. Then it went pending. Then the listing got removed, and that was with an agent, right? You can tell right here that an agent was involved. Okay? Then the listing gets removed for 205, and they decide, okay, well, I'm gonna sell this myself for sale by owner, right? And they have it listed since March. So we're going on, 3 months here, or 2 months rather, and they're still asking 205. I mean, the questions that I'd ask this guy are, what's going on? What happened? It looked like it was listed at one point. Why'd you take it off the market with an agent? And understand, what their situation is. I don't personally love the FSBO leads myself, right? I like to go direct to seller. I like to find deals that are not on the market. We've moved FSBO deals, but they still got to be motivated. There's got to be something really motivating this person to sell. But just for the sake of going through this, let's take a look at, some of the other properties in the area. What I'll do, I duplicate the page on Zillow. So this is going to be helpful for people to understand how I'd navigate comping properties regardless, right? And so I'm going to just click out here, and it's going to bring me to the map. And some people don't know about this, but if you just press this zoom button here, it's going to zoom you in directly to where the property's at, right? 3119 is our property right here. It's the subject property, okay? Now, Zestimate right here is saying 145. He's asking 205. That's the first thing. I'm going to zoom out. I'm already on sold. Let me check the property types here. I want to select all the property types. In Texas, it's a non-disclosure state, okay? So I actually like to use Privy for, getting that information that's probably not available. But I'll still look at Zillow, and I'll see the price history to understand, if I can see when it went pending and at what price, how quickly it went pending, if it was listed with an agent. These are all things that help us understand and gauge interest, in a market, is how quickly a property will go pending. How quickly somebody says, no, I want this property, I'm putting an offer in, and they accept the offer, and it goes pending, right? And then also how quickly they close after it goes pending. These are all things that I'm looking at. But this one is not so relevant. I think this was 2024 that this sold. Okay, we're in 2026, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to go back here, and I want to just zoom out. I want to talk about some major stuff, right, of where I'm actually looking at the map. This is important as well. I want to make sure that this is highlighted here. So you've probably seen videos where they'll tell you, don't cross major roads or highways. Sometimes it can be a little difficult, to find stuff that's relevant, in the same vicinity, right? So you're not limited to an individual street. If you have properties that have sold on that same street, those are going to be your strongest comparable properties, especially if they're like builds and like in square footage, like in bed and bath count. You want to find houses like that. But if we look at the newest and most recently sold properties, right, this is what we're going to find. How far would I go, right? I would probably look in, let me see if I can draw on this map. So if our property is somewhere in this area, I'm probably going to look in this area here for potential properties, right? I don't really want to try to cross this major road, right, the Interstate 69. I'm not really looking to cross that. I want to see if there are any properties in this general vicinity here that are comparable to our property, right? So now that we got the shape, it's going to eliminate all the other ones so we can just get an idea. And I'm open to suggestions, feedback, and thoughts, in the chat. I'll be checking periodically. But keep in mind, we've got our subject property open here. It's 4 beds, 1 bath, 1,265 square feet. Year built 1961, right? So ideally, I'm looking for something that's got about 4 beds, one bath, at least 1 bath. This might be a good one, right? This one's over here, Hardy Acres. This is 1,100 square feet. Let me get rid of this one. Ours is 1265, so a little bit smaller, right? This was on Knoll Street, so I'm gonna command click that or control click that if you're on Windows. Got to upgrade. Got to hop on Mac, man. Got to hop on the Apple train here. And I'm gonna also look for any other comparables around that same square footage and same bed bath count, but that one's pretty solid. I think that's the one we were just looking at, so that's older. But this one seems to be the newest, most recent comparable, right? Now I want to see, okay, well, what did this sell for? It looks like it got listed, right? So it listed, take a look, this is what we were just talking about here a second ago. It listed on the 3rd of January of this year for $237,000, and then in 8 days went pending, and then sold probably about 20 days later. Okay? This house is obviously after repair value. Okay? This is a fixed up house. It looks like a flip. And I'll tell you how I identify, how this looks like a flip. You got new siding. The yard is clean. Okay? Looks freshly painted. The roof looks new. New door, new fixtures, updated windows. These are things that we're looking at to understand, okay, was this house recently renovated or what, right? Then you got the interior. You look at the kitchen. I don't know if we got other pictures of the kitchen, but you look at this kitchen, stainless steel appliances. It all looks fresh, looks brand new. You can tell just by looking at this, hey, no, this looks like recently renovated property, right? You see stuff like this, the sticker on the appliances, right? These are giveaways that this was, brand new stuff, right? You look at this bathroom. I mean, this is gorgeous. 4 beds, 2 baths. Somebody's raising a family in this house. This is their dream home. Oh, I got all this space in my backyard. Let my dogs run around. This is that type of house. They got their little shed back there. So I say all that to say, okay, one of the things that I'd look for, especially in a flip like this, would be, if it's possible to see, would be what they bought it for, right? But it doesn't look like it's possible here. I'll still try to look at Privy, because sometimes you get a little bit more information with Privy. And I will pop this address in here, and it will tell us what it's sold for. This is why this is one of the most important tools to have. And also what they bought it for, right? So one key thing here is he said he made the offer for 180, right? I want to just take a look and see when they got it for 180. Okay, beautiful. This is what we want to see. So they bought this house for 183,540. Okay, so that's very in line, very close to where you were at with your offer of 180,000, right? Because this cash buyer that flipped this property, which is Texas DR Home Investors, okay? So you can probably reach out to this individual and see if they may be interested in another flip, and they likely are. They just flipped this one. That they paid $183,000 for this property, okay? And then they flipped it and they sold it for $237,000, which we see here, okay? It actually looks like it closed for $235,034, and they may do, just a slight change. I don't know if there's a specific law about, being able to publish sales data in Texas. I think I saw somewhere about PropStream being about 1% plus or minus what the actual price went for to say that it's an estimate. But I'd imagine that this probably went for full asking because it went so quickly, right? Now, you don't have to do ARV times 0.7 and all this, right? We don't know what the property looked like before. I guess this is what it looked like before. But I also don't know how relevant it is. This is 2025. But anywho, they bought the property for $183,000, right? So let's see what the number would look like at $237,000. If you were to take off the 0.7%, you're deducting the 30%, right? You're already at 165, so that would kill this deal for anybody. You know, the seller, they're not interested in selling at that price, whatever. Buyer, of course, they'd want it at that price, but they probably can't get it. This guy was willing to pay $183,000 for the property. Now, this may have been a situation where, you know, they just picked it up and they up and sold it. I don't know if they put much work into it based off this before and after, but it's worth calling them and building that relationship with them, because it's likely that they're going to end up being the buyer regardless. So this is a very good connection to make, and that's why it's so important to have a tool like Privy or PropStream, you know, to be able to look at who actually bought this property, who was the investor that flipped it. So hopefully that was helpful. Let me know what you all think in the side chat there. But I think that you're pretty close with your offer of 180, but you still got to go lower than that, because that's where your buyer would be at. Bob asks, are these sessions recorded? They should be, because what we're sharing is pure gold. You should be watching and rewatching it over and over. Absolutely. They are recorded. I will drop a link to the YouTube, youtube.com/REI Revolution. Make sure that you're subscribed there, ladies and gentlemen, so that you can catch the replays, the lives, the reels, and the content that we're going to be pushing. So it looks like this was helpful to Frederick. So make a lower offer, find motivation. Yeah, I mean, you got to make an offer that's going to allow you to budget for the repairs, holding costs, interest payments, labor, and still be able to turn a profit, right? Because you're looking to assign this to the end buyer, right? So these are all things you've got to keep in mind when you're making your offer. If you think your buyer is going to be at 180, 185, you got to be starting the negotiation on something like that somewhere in the ballpark around $25,000, $30,000 less. That's where you really should be shooting that number. You want to go for no. If you don't hear the seller tell you, no, that's too low, you offered them too much. That's the worst feeling. The worst feeling is when the seller immediately accepts your offer, and that's because you know you offered them way, way, way too much. Something's not right here. There's got to be a little bit of a give and take in a negotiation. And obviously, everybody's got to walk away from the deal feeling like it was a good decision, like it makes sense for everybody to move forward. But you also don't want to overpromise and then underdeliver, because you set a false expectation with the seller that you're going to be able to give them, you know, so much money for their property. Next thing you know, you can't close because there are no buyers at that price point. Not only are you wasting your time, you're wasting the seller's time, and the seller might even have made plans with their life to be able to move forward and close out this chapter based off of the expectations you set with them. I've seen people, unfortunately, pack up their bags and get into the process of moving into a new home, and at the end of the day, that deal doesn't close. Now they're on the hook for 2 mortgage payments. They put themselves between a rock and a hard place. Cassie says, it really was. Thank you. So it should be like 20 to 50K less for an offer. I mean, you got to have a margin. You got to have some sort of spread, right? And that's why, you know, I've recently decided that I'm going to go after the commercial deals, because the spread, the potential opportunity to earn more relative to the actual price of the property is just higher, right? So let's say, you know, $185,000, okay? We're going to just take off 10%. So we'll multiply that by 0.9. Okay, you're offered the seller to make 10% on this deal, just moving paper from one side of the table to the other. You got to offer the seller 166, right? If you sell it for 180, what did I say? 185? Let's take a look here. 185. That's an $18,500 assignment fee, okay, on that deal. Now, take a look at this. If you're talking about a property that's $3 million, okay, and you just need to take 10% off the top there, now we're talking about You offering the seller $2,700,000, you have a potential margin at 10% to make $300,000 versus less than $20,000. Does that make sense? It's relative. When there's this much money involved, the opportunity is going to be bigger. That doesn't mean that I have, the right to be able to say, hey, they're easier, they're harder, or whatever. I'm still going through this process of working this pipeline, and of course I'm going to share things, as they develop, but things are moving. And I have the proof of concept because I've done a deal like this, so I know that it can happen. Now the question is, can I do this at scale? And if that is the case, if I can do this at scale, and I have the proof to say, hey, look, this is what is actually working, then, that's a different story. I have the proof of concept with the houses. And I know that if I can do houses and I can do land, why can't I do commercial real estate? I've already done it. I've done one, but can I do it at scale? And that's what we're building towards now. So I still think, getting started, if you have no background in real estate, single family is still a great way to get started, understand how to handle objections, and build your sales acumen on the phone. But it depends. Everybody's goal is different. Not everybody is concerned, with trying to make the most money. Some people, they're more concerned about just, making enough money to get by, take care of their expenses, and live comfortably. And that's totally fine as well. I'm not saying one goal is better or worse than the other. They're just different. But that's why it's important to understand what are your goals, write them out, define them clearly, and then ask yourself if what you are doing and working towards on a daily basis is actually getting you closer, right? Because with the houses, I had to ask myself this question. If I want to hit X amount per month, I've got to increase the volume. I got to increase the sales. I probably got to increase the size of my team. I got to increase the amount of offers going out. I got to increase the amount of money that I'm spending in my marketing. There's a scale on both sides. So it's either you're going to play the volume game and you're going to go and try to flip more houses, or you're going to play the size game of, I'm still going to try to flip as many of these deals as possible, but knowing that, some are going to fall out, not everything is going to make it to the finish line, whether you're talking about a $20K deal or a $200,000 deal. Me personally, I just would rather a shot at making $200,000 for the same heartache and headache than $20,000 and watching it evaporate. I mean, I'm talking from personal experience. My personal experience has just been that, but it doesn't mean that it will be the same, for everybody. I know a lot of people that are crushing it with the houses, and they flip them like hot cakes, man. And that's why it's important to review and revise your systems and processes, right? Maybe I didn't have the best systems and processes to get a similar result. That's why it's so important to talk about what you're doing in here so that you can learn and grow alongside the people that have the results that you're looking for. So I commend every single one of you, number one, for showing up, but especially those of you that have followed along in today and that have also brought forth leads and real opportunities, to evaluate. Matt is stunning, spitting example of what is possible, with the single family stuff. He's doing it. $100,000 a month is absolutely possible with single family and one acquisition member and one disposition member. But what I like about what Matt's saying is he's keeping his team lean, right? I've talked to plenty of people. I mean, you guys can go and watch on the YouTube channel. I'm talking hundreds of professionals, multiple 6-7 figure entrepreneurs and investors, all doing all sorts of different stuff, direct to seller marketing, wholesaling, investment, portfolio building, all this. And a lot of them, talk about big numbers. But the question is, what do you actually keep after all is said and done, right? If you keep a lean team, you got a few people, but they're effective and you're pushing at scale, you're pushing volume, that's phenomenal. But when you got all these people in your business and your organization and, you got so many mouths to feed, at the end of the day, what's left for you? If you're making $100,000 in a month and you're keeping 15 after everybody else gets taken care of, these are just questions that I think individuals should ask themselves. And like I said, I'm not negating or affirming that one is better than the other. They're just different. But for you to be mindful of the fact that these people are depending on you, right? There's a level of responsibility for the overhead to continue to run your business, right? With your marketing, with the people that are working within your business. If you're scaling this up and you got a huge team, you got people that are counting on you to make this work. And these are all things to consider. Some people, they thrive with that sort of pressure. Some people, they'll fold, right? So it just depends on the individual. But all things to consider, as you're getting started with this business and as you continue to scale, because I'm sure there are people, especially in this room right now, maybe watching the replay, watching the reels, there are all sorts of levels, right? Not everybody in here is just getting started, right? Some of us have been doing this for the last 4 or 5 years. Some of us have been consistent. Some of us are still building consistency. Some of us are scaling. But what's most important is we're all in the game today. That's what's most important. We're all showing up right now. We're all making calls right now. We're all talking to sellers. We're all submitting offers. We're all getting 1% better right now. That's what really counts. So don't concern yourself too much with what everybody else has got going on. Concern yourself with how you can get 1% better each day. And you will. You absolutely will. If there's anybody that I've learned that from, it's got to be Mr. Bob Sadai. You guys got to go back and watch the replays of the live streams that we've held. I mean, it's an incredible amount of wealth of knowledge that has been shared in this very room. And we're so blessed, truly blessed, to have been able to receive abundantly the experience from the people that have come to share so generously with us. Matt says, the size of your team directly reflects your lead source. Outbound equals larger team needed to achieve $100,000 a month. Inbound equals smaller, leaner team needed to achieve $100,000 a month. Outbound is more labor intensive, smaller spreads, but you can touch more people. Inbound is less labor intensive, larger spreads. Just depends on what structure you want to put in place. Absolutely, Ark. This is the call to be in. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, got to invite somebody you think would benefit from being in proximity with us. And of course, I'd love to be able to invite. We got somebody coming to join us up on the stage. Of course, feel free. Adam says inbound is the way. Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
I think we lost him here. Inbound is the way. Let's talk about that. I mean, I find that a lot of these deals coming in from inbound on Google, at least, they fell apart. And I know we've had some conversations about this in terms of, what markets, what areas, you're looking at. I mean, you can get some bangers, but there's a lot of turnover, that comes with it. And that's just coming from firsthand experience. I know everybody's experience looks different, but there's a lot of churn. But for scalability, like Matt said, you do have to, that's another thing that most people don't really talk about. We had a guy on that was doing, $500,000 in a month, right? He's talking about, if I make $100,000 in a month, I'm on suicide watch, right? You got to ask yourself, because this guy does have a team, how much is he actually spending in marketing, and what is the return on that spend? Because I'll tell you, and this goes back to the relativity, like we were talking about a second ago, even about the price points of properties. If you're spending $30,000 a month on marketing and you get a 3% return on your ad spend, 3 to 4%, 3%, or 3%, what would that be? A 3x, that'd be 300%. So you'd make 30,000 times 3, 90,000, right? This is revenue before any of your other expenses, right? Let's say, you got to spend the 30,000 is your marketing expense. And then let's say after, dispositions, acquisitions, your team and everything, maybe you take home probably about half of that. And there are probably, ways that you can get your business running leaner than that. But that's 30,000, right? So at $30,000 a month, you're spending this money for a shot at potentially doubling your money. With all the stress, commitment, overhead, and responsibility required, to do that, what if something doesn't go according to plan? And it never does. It never goes according to plan. Now you're getting closer to, maybe breaking even, after all expenses. And that can be difficult to stomach, for a lot of people. But at scale, right? If that, and I'm also talking about, it depends on how long you can consistently spend this money, right? If you're talking about, let's say, $3,500 a month, I don't even really know that you can really be successful spending that amount of money. And I was spending $5,000 a month on Google and get a realistic return, even with novations. I think it's still tough. For me, at least, it was tough. Adam says you could do $100,000 a month with inbound. I'd love to bring you up, Adam, if you got a moment to chat here. We got about 13 minutes left. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk about it. We got the man himself. Here he is.
What's going on, John?
How you doing, brother?
Too bad. But yes, sir, inbound, man. Like for anyone that's run PPC or Google campaigns, like you just know, like you need to be an excellent operator, really, to scale a team like that. Specifically with SMS, just because the actual lead screening, like you could get a VA and stuff, but you need to be on top of them. But SMS is just like a beast. Like if you're getting like 100, 200 responses a day, like it is tough, especially for residential. Where with the inbound, it's like, okay, we're closing 1 in 10, just call the leads. At least in my opinion. You can run way leaner.
What do you think would be the minimum commitment, like a realistic minimum commitment, to be able to spend on inbound marketing to get a realistic result?
Well, there's really 3 channels for inbound. You can do Meta, which is going to be Facebook and Instagram ads. You can do Google PPC, which is typically the highest intent. And then you have PPL, pay per lead, where a provider runs the ads and you just pay by the lead. Each of those have different amounts that you need to spend, that you need to commit on a monthly basis. Google PPC is the highest commitment. I would say you need to consistently spend at least 8 to 10,000 a month for 6 months to see like really to hit the ROAS numbers that you're looking for. The target ROAS, return on ad spend, for a Google PPC campaign is going to be anywhere from 4 to 5. That would be a healthy campaign. Google, PPL, you can probably get away with like 5K a month. Facebook, probably 3 or 4 per month.
And what do you think the
For
actual
each
take
of those
home
have different
is?
levels of commitment.
So if you're spending $8,000 a month, right, you get a $32,000 return. That's revenue. And then what types of expenses are you going to have? It depends. If you got a team or not. If you got people in these seats working the leads on acquisitions and dispositions, what your model looks like if you're doing nationwide novations, or if you just have access to buyers and you're doing all off-market assignments. Right off the rip, $8,000 is coming out of that, right? So you're at $24,000 profit before any other expense for your business, like software, paying your team, depending on the size of your team. These are all things I think, people got to really evaluate, right? Like what is the real number that people are actually taking home after all these expenses? What does that actually look like? Is it $24,000 a month if you're a solo operator, or is it less than that? Is it closer to maybe $12,000 a month? And then if you're spending $8,000, to make $12,000, these are the questions I think people really need to ask themselves. Are they in a position, to risk $8,000 consistently to potentially earn $12,000? And if, God forbid, something happens where that month just doesn't pan out, can they lose $8,000?
Right. I mean, for me, like I tried to scale, um, cold outbound, so SMS and cold calling. And the biggest issue with that was just the inconsistency. So it like at the beginning, if you don't have capital to either pay salary to an acquisitions or dispositions manager, you can't have a month where someone doesn't get paid. So that's like really the biggest thing with Google with outbound. Like they need to be you need to be able to take care of your people on a month to month basis. Like a month where you have 1 to 2 deals is really just not acceptable. Like they need to pay their bills. Um, Now for inbound stuff, like what you're actually keeping, like you need to make sure that you have like that you're hitting that target ROAS, and you're keeping those mouths fed because you will lose. It's just difficult to scale if your people aren't getting paid. But like what you actually keep, yeah, I mean, it's always less than what people are saying on the internet, on Instagram or whatever.
Sure. So what do you think people can do, to consistently get closer to hitting that ROAS each month?
You do need to cut your teeth on like if you're a newbie, if you're it's your first 6 months in this is Google inbound is probably not for you. You need to build up a capital stack where you can run. And I should mention specifically Google has a ramp up phase. So like I know specifically Matt has had like a good start to his campaign, hitting 8x ROAS in like 60 days. But that's not the case for most Google ad campaigns. Most Google ad campaigns need to go through like a 90-day learning phase where you might have suboptimal return on ad spend. I'm talking like 2x, 2.5x during a ramp up period. And then your ROAS should stabilize. So you need to have, if you're going to do inbound, you need to have capital to sustain like your ramp up phase, so you can keep the leads flowing and keep everyone paid.
And would you suggest people
But you need
people get
to,
started with outbound before, transitioning to inbound?
yeah, 100%. Like you can't if you're spending $200 a lead, you can't be fumbling on the phone. Like you need to be confident. You need to know what you're doing. So you can start SMS. You can start SMS is going to be the cheapest and but cold call is good too. That's a cheap lead option, but you need to know what you're doing on the phone if you're going to be paying 200, $250 a lead for sure.
Absolutely.
But yeah, if you're a newbie, you got to start with outbound. You can't be dropping the ball when you got expensive leads.
And what would you suggest? I mean, do you think people should even pay attention to FISBOs, or should they just go grab a list and start
I
hammering
mean,
that list?
do what you ever got to do to get enough money to run an outbound campaign. Like W-2s are like criminally underrated. Like if you got to go work at W-2, that's great. Like you have money every month. Um, Save up 5, 10 grand and then do SMS or do cold calling and just increase your skill set to the point where you have a capital stack and a skill set. I would say like have like if you're gonna do inbound, specifically Google, you want to have like 50 grand on the sidelines that you're ready to spend on it. You have to have like 50 grand saved that you're ready to invest in the business. PPL is a little bit different because you can turn it on and off, but specifically Google, you want to have like 50 grand saved, my opinion.
Absolutely. And even then, man, 50 grand, it depends a lot on, who's getting on the phone, where they're marketing, right? You got to have a real dialed in campaign. That's something a lot of people don't really talk about either.
Yeah, make sure
Where,
if you're going to be working, most people are going to work with an agency. If they're going to go the Google route, make sure you're vetting the agency well. There's a lot of not so great agencies out there, so check with people who are running successful Google campaigns and see what they're doing. There's plenty of people in here who would be happy to help you out, I'm sure.
wonderful.
Yes, sir. What other questions we got?
Let's see, ladies and gentlemen, drop your questions. Take advantage of this opportunity. How much would it take to get started, do you think, for outbound?
Um, like 5 grand. It's for like SMS, like 5 to 10 grand, I would say. You're gonna have CRM costs, you're gonna have texting costs, you're gonna have the skip tracing costs. Um, and if your skill set isn't refined just yet, it's gonna take you some time to get the right seller. For most people, that first deal, it's like you gotta find the right seller.
Hmm.
Like someone I might be able to close on an outbound lead, a complete newbie will not be able to close. Like it's going to take some time to find that needle in a haystack. So I would say most people get their first deal within 3 to 6 months, so have like 3 to 6 months of operating expenses for outbound, 10 grand.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. John, Arik says, John, I've been meaning to connect with you and ask, but I currently work in corporate sales at 20 at Service Titan, and I work 8 to 5 Monday to Friday, but I've always been interested in getting into wholesaling. Maybe doing it on the side after work. What would your approach be to that? Should I stick to one thing or should I take a gander at wholesaling? I I think that you need to ask yourself what you really want to do, right? The grass is green where you're going to water it, right? So if you enjoy what you're doing, at your current position where you work, you know, maybe there's an opportunity within that company, to go rise up. If you're asking me personally, I'm not the guy that's going to be in a position where I'm working at a company. That's just not going to be me, and that's just me personally, right? I'm not saying that you can't be successful at the company and grow with the company. But if something inside of you is telling you that, hey, I wanna own my time, I wanna own a business, I wanna take on a massive amount of risk, responsibility, stress, to actually build a business from the ground up, if you're crazy like that, and you're ready, to suffer for a little while in the interim, because I'm not gonna bullshit you, it's not easy, to build something from zero. It's going to demand time, energy, attention, focus, consistency, and a lot of uncertainty, sometimes. But if you're willing to pay that price, there is a potential possibility that it might be worth it. So I think it just depends. What do you think, Adam? You think I just don't think that wholesaling is something you can do on the side. I know that there are people that can do it and have been successful, but I really don't believe that myself. I feel like wholesaling is something you got to be all in on.
I probably disagree. I think if you're working a 9 to 5, you can work a 5 to 9. It's all about you and what priorities you make. Like, you have to make time for it, that's for sure. But if you're working 4 hours a day after your job, and then you're working all weekend, I think you can get deals.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm happy to
But it all
disagree.
depends on your goals. It all depends on your goals. Like if your goal is to run a big wholesale operation, like no, that's going to take full time. But to get a few deals here, maybe if you have some capital saved up and you want to, buy some rentals, or like you can find deals.
Yeah, I mean, I just think people mostly underestimate the amount of time that they actually have available to them, because especially if you're commuting to work, there's a lot of time that just passes that you might not allocate towards, like, okay, I actually cannot do two activities at the same time right now, right? You're eating, you're commuting to work, you're driving in the car, like that's all time taken away from potentially calling and talking to people. Like, you got to be on the phone with people, having conversations, talking to people that are actually motivated. I would say you have to be on the phone talk time at least 2.5, 3 hours a day. Like, you got to be having conversations if you want to really build a pipeline. So if you're, getting home and it's already 6 p.m., I don't know what time zone you're in, you might be able to leverage, working in a market virtually and try to go after a time zone where it's a little bit earlier in the day. But, I mean, you're not really calling people that you have no connection with past 8 p.m. Wouldn't you say?
I could agree with that. I mean, that's true. But if you can truly find the time every day, I would say it's possible. But yeah, I mean, if he's 8 to 6 or whatever with commute, like that's gonna be tough. Like you said, maybe the time zone.
Yeah, I mean,
But I mean, if
there's
you're working full days on the weekend, I'm not saying anything's possible. Like if you put the work in, if you put in the time, if you find the time, it's possible. But it's just yeah, it might be difficult to find the time if you're at a 9 to 5.
Jacob says that they wholesaled. He wholesaled. He was wholesaling for 1 year and a half part time while working 9 to 5. I'll ask you this, Jacob, and I'd love if you got some time to hop up here. I know we'll probably run maybe 15 minutes late, but in that year and a half that you were wholesaling, were you consistently closing deals in that year and a half? And then how much do you feel like you needed to feel comfortable enough, to make the leap and say, I'm gonna go at this full time. And then what does it look like now? Let's see if we can get him up here. I'll invite you if you got a moment to tap in. What does it look like now? Good morning, Jacob.
Hey, good morning. Let me get this camera on 1 second.
Take your time.
All right, cool. So, yeah, I was wholesaling part-time. I didn't know I was going to get into wholesaling, before getting into a 9 to 5 that I was working. But Jacob's not actually a lizard. That's funny. Um, so yeah, I was working valet at a hotel for 2 years total, just about. Um, and then I found wholesaling and I jumped into it, got a mentor, everything like that. And then yeah, I kept that job for the next year and a half because that job was funding my business. I was willing to spend money to on marketing to actually generate leads and make offers. So I spent the first 3 months learning, doing the cold calling myself and everything like that. Like Adam was saying, you got to take time to get better on the phone. Because when you first start, you're not going to have those skills, and you're not going to be able to, close the sellers you can if you do have those skills, and you will have to wait for that needle in the haystack. That's kind of just the reality when you're just starting off. Um, so to answer your question that you first asked, no, I was not closing deals consistently at all. And I'm still struggling with that to this day, honestly. But I did end up quitting my job. So it took me about 4 months to close my first deal. It ended up being a JV deal. So I closed that one. That was like a 10K spread, split 50-50. So that was nice to put more money into marketing, but I still kept my job. It wasn't enough where I felt comfortable to go full time. So kept working, and that was 4 months in. And then a full year later is when I closed 2 deals on the same day. So I didn't close another deal for exactly a full year, just about. Um, and that was October of 2025. So I closed those. I made about 30K total on those 2 deals. And then within 2 weeks, I quit my job. And I was like, this is gonna be the money I put aside. And, I'm going in all or nothing. Like either I burn through this 30 grand or I'm gonna build a business off of this, which is what I'm going through right now. Honestly, I mean, like you're saying, it's stressful. Probably the hardest point in my life right now, but I enjoy doing what I do and trying to get better every day because it's a grind for sure, and it's not as always easy as it seems.
Absolutely not. And I appreciate you, being honest and transparent. That's the biggest thing too, is to set the realistic expectations for people that are hearing about this business, so that they don't, think that it's all sunshine and rainbows and Lambos, because obviously we've talked to people, we know that it's possible, but there's a lot that goes into it behind the scenes to make that happen. Now, you closed 3 deals in a year and a half, being in the business, right? After, leaving your job and being able to actually focus on this full time, how do you feel in terms of where you're at with your business now? Do you feel like you're building the pipeline up to the point where you can see yourself consistently closing?
So I have a pretty decent pipeline build up. I think the issue I'm struggling with right now is finding consistency closing. Um, after that, that 30K in October, I've closed one deal since, another 10K a month and a half ago, like mid-March. So I've been pretty cold, not really too happy with where I'm at with one, the amount of money that I'm spending. Actually, Matt just posted in chat, that's actually right around exactly what my monthly like operating expenses are between marketing and everything involved in my business is right around what Matt is saying actually. So that's about how much I'm spending a month, for marketing, CRM, systems, all that stuff. Um and yeah, I'm having a problem, Rogue Steve, closing sellers, right? Like getting contracts. Like when I get a contract, these deals are closing. Um, I've never really dealt with much contract fallout, other than when I first started, because I was doing a virtual market I didn't know too much about. But I did end up closing a deal off of that. But when I switched markets, and since then, like every contract I've gotten, I've closed. Um, but my issue right now is getting the contracts. So
What do
that's
you
like
what do
the
you
yeah, go ahead.
what are you doing for marketing? It sounds like you might be doing outbound, SMS or cold call.
Yeah, I'm doing high volume SMS.
Understood. Yeah, this is kind of just like what I was talking about before, just like the inconsistency. I mean, what do you think is leading to the inconsistency? Is it just lack of motivation in the sellers? Do you think you need more systems in your business to have consistent follow up? What do you think is leading to that inconsistency?
I like to put a lot of the blame on myself. Feel like there's probably some ways that I could be improving on the phone, maybe educating sellers on their price point and everything like that. Because I feel like making cash offers in the market I'm in, I'm usually pretty far off with what they're asking and with what my offers are going to come in at. I just recently, a couple months ago, started implementing novation offers. So I've gotten a lot closer negotiating with sellers since I've done that, but still like not any, new contracts or anything. But like I said, I like to really take accountability in thinking that I can probably improve somewhere in my sales process or on the phone with sellers to increase that.
Understood. And what just to specify, what market are you in? Just so in case anyone in here might be in your market, they may be able to connect with you.
I am in South Florida, so that market is Miami-Dade County, Broward County, and Palm Beach County, so probably like the three biggest counties in the entire state. So those are the three counties I'm hitting primarily. I'll hit every few months, I'll hit like other counties throughout the state with just like tired landlord data, but I hard focus just on this market in particular though.
Understood. Now, is there like a certain like what I was talking about earlier, just kind of the inconsistencies with SMS? I mean, some of that might be due to sales processes or system processes, but I do think that consistently getting people into the pipeline with motivation on a month to month basis can be difficult with outbound. Like, do you have a plan to make a jump to inbound at any point? And like for you, what does that look like? What does that jump look like?
So for me, obviously, like you were saying, I would have to have a comfortable amount built up to know that kind of like the same thing I did with quitting my job. I know um, that I have, like Matt was saying, pretty much 12 months that I can spend on the business, um, which is coming up pretty quickly. I mean, we're already in May, and like 12 months to spend on the business where I don't have to really worry about anything with outbound. So I would probably take the same approach to inbound where I would have to have that capital built up and say, hey, I have this amount of capital built up for this much in expenses. And, I'm willing to take that jump into inbound. So that kind of like what you were touching on earlier, I would feel the same way about switching from outbound to inbound, the same way I did with, quitting my job and going full time.
Well, I appreciate you sharing it. First off, there might be somebody in the audience that might be in the same situation as you, um, and your insights might be helping them right now. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, and Dalton, I do track all my data. I track marketing data, acquisitions data, the amount of money I'm spending. I track all that stuff. Um, but I mean, at this point, no matter how much tracking I'm doing, I just feel like I'm not getting enough contracts or closing enough deals to really um, get an idea of what numbers look like, on what my leads to contract are. I just feel like I don't have enough data with getting, contracts to really see what that looks like in building consistency, if that makes sense.
I'll ask, how
Like
many
Dalton said.
offers do you think you're making in a week? I
Go
mean,
ahead,
do
Joe.
out of all the people that you're talking to right now, how many of these people, are getting to the point where they're ready to hear your number?
Sorry, you cut out for me at the beginning. What was the question?
How many people are you making offers to in a week?
In a week, on the low end, probably 10. On the high end, 15 to 18. So bare minimum, I'm making at least 10 offers per week.
What motivation are you targeting with these lists that you're reaching out to?
So as much as possible, I'll target, tire landlords' absentee data. Like I said, I do very high volume. I don't filter down the list too much. Um, so so yeah, I just run absentee data, and then there's not a ton of it. So when I go ahead and run through those, I'll let that cool down for 3, maybe 4 months, and then I'll hit all the South Florida owner occupied data. And like I said, I'm pretty broad on that. High equity. Maybe no HOA or something like that. Certain amount of years ownership. Maybe like with owner occupied, I'll go like 15, 20 years plus ownership. But very broad lists. I'm doing high volume, so that's kind of what I run for data in terms of the sellers I'm hitting.
I think we'd definitely be interested to hear what your sales process sounds like. And I mean, if that's something you'd be down to go and dive deeper into maybe tomorrow, I think that would be a great opportunity. I'm seeing there are a lot of people in the chat just making themselves available, as a resource to you. Um, so definitely lean on them. You could reach out. I'm happy to help. Dalton's happy to help. Anybody really in the chat. Matt has a great question. What's the follow-up process after an offer is submitted?
So any lead I make an offer to, I'm on top of them. Well, any lead I can make an offer to, I'm on top of them forever until they tell me to not call them again. And that really goes for any lead that comes into my CRM. So what that looks like specific to if I make an offer to them. So if they come into my pipeline, I make an offer, offer gets rejected, you know, then I'll go ahead, send them a text, probably 20 minutes. It's automated 20 minutes, after the call. And then I will call them every week to 2 weeks. So in the beginning, the first 3 weeks, I'll call them once every week, follow up with them, see if I can make a new offer and maybe work something out. So I'll follow up with them once a week for 3 weeks. And then after 3 weeks, of having those conversations, and I'll follow up with them once every 2 weeks. And that's like a 60-day roughly process where I'm texting, calling them, weekly or biweekly. And then after those 60 days, if I can't get anything done with them, I'll put them on a long-term, drip campaign where I won't be calling them as much, but they'll receive, weekly or biweekly texts, until, I get back in touch with them. So that's how the follow-up process is after making an offer in my business.
I'll ask you a question.
Um,
This was relevant to me because I brought it up in the chat yesterday. Are you just making verbal offers, or are you sending them emails with the offer included?
yeah, so like if the offer is close enough or they show any interest, like I try to assume the close and send the offer by email. I mean, like 9 times out of 10, it's probably verbal, just because like the numbers would be so far off. They don't even want to hear it, and like I don't really get hung up on very often at this point. but it's just that number's so far off. They don't even want you to send it to them. So I'll get more into like negotiation, get stuck in the negotiation phase, um, without ever really able to send them the offer through email. But like I said, if there's any like sort of interest and they give me an email, then yeah, I'm trying my hardest to send that offer by email.
One thing that I'm also going to be personally implementing is moving forward, I'm going to submit every offer via email. It's literally so easy to do. It really doesn't make sense not to do it because you can just literally whip it up 2 seconds using AI. So I will, and I'll, pardon me, keep everybody posted on what the results of that actually look like. But I like that gem that Matt dropped in the chat so much yesterday that I'm implementing it immediately. And I'd suggest you consider it because I think that that was definitely something worth considering. Now, Matt, you're saying implement follow-up videos. What does that mean? What are the follow-up videos? You're sending people a selfie video of, hey, just checking in, or what exactly does that look like?
Yeah, and while he's responding, I'll answer a couple questions I see that were directed towards me. So Steve said, on the sales process side, do you listen to your own calls or other people's, like closers, YouTube, IG, etc.? Yeah. I don't listen to my calls as much as I should, but I do listen to a lot of other people for sure. Over the past couple years, I've spent tons of time watching other people on the phone, but that is one thing I will say I need to start implementing on my end is actually, listening to my own calls. That is great advice. And then Dalton said, probably, can you pull this up for last week? Yeah, I mean, I have all my KPIs tracked. I track them, weekly. So yeah, I have KPIs and documents and everything like that, keeping track of, everything. All my SMS marketing and all my acquisitions KPIs as well, offers made, stuff like that.
Here's one of the follow-up videos. We got Matt walking down the street, hat backwards, reaching out about that house we were talking about.
Is that actually Matt?
No, but it's close. It's Matt's AI alter ego.
That's good.
Here we got Matt coming up. There he is, the big man.
I now I have to join since Carter dropped my sauce there, so I love that he's participating here. So it's something that I learned when I was an agent many years ago. There's data out there, and whether you believe it or not, but it originally came from agents and getting listings and the process of getting a listing. And obviously you're going to interview for that job, and you're going to be one of 30 agents interviewing for that job. And there's data out there that says sellers choose the first listing agent, the first agent they speak to, whether it's on the buying or listing side, whatever it is. There's a psychology factor behind sending videos in your communication that implants something in their head that they feel like they already met you. And so it's very useful when it comes to setting appointments with sellers. So on the phone, you say, okay, you're going to be available, Tuesday at 1:00. Okay, I'll send you an email reminder, so on and so forth. There are always cases where that seller is not going to show up to that appointment, or they're going to cancel or ignore you, anything along those lines. There's a psychology factor to it that if they receive a video from you, or what they perceive to be from you, they feel it's harder for them to cancel that appointment. It's almost as if they met you in person and are standing in front of you, you're much more likely to buy something. If I go to the grocery store right now and there's a bunch of Girl Scouts selling cookies, it's very hard for me to say no when they're right in front of me, right? But if I got an email or a phone call of somebody trying to sell something, it's very easy for me to hang up or block that phone number or anything along those lines. So there's a psychology aspect to, I have a whole video list, especially when I was an agent before. A new lead comes in when I was an agent, they'd get an automatic video from me introducing myself, telling them who I am. I'm excited to show you around my system. When we would book a showing, there's another one. When an offer is made, all sorts of videos. And then again, we all know in this game of wholesaling, follow-up is key. Sounds like Jacob has a decent follow-up system in place. It's a lot of manual calls, which are great. That's labor intensive, but it's very good to, be making phone calls just in case they do answer. And there's text messages and things like that. But I think you guys will see an absolute increase in response rates when you send personalized videos to that seller. Because again, going back psychology-wise, it makes them feel like you took time out of your day and that this isn't one of the 1,000 other automated messages that they receive on a daily basis. I'm sure if you go look at all of your follow-up messages, and I'm even guilty of it too at times, your 6-month drip and your 3-month drip, those messages start to sound very automated. Once they start getting that 4th, 5th, 6th one, it's very hard to make them feel or seem different. Video aspect can be personalized. You can do it in a way where you can either say their names or you can make it as close to being personalized as possible where they still feel like it's directly to them, because you can make different videos for different situations. A seller that you've talked to at one point and sent an offer to and they never got back to you, that could be a video. Hey, we sent an offer over to you, and I know we tried following up and we never had a chance, so we were just hoping we can get back on a call. Someone that came into your system you were never able to reach, that's a video in itself. Hey, I know you came into the system and we've reached out to you a few times. We'd love to be able to discuss details and possible next steps. So you can have different videos for different things that still feel personalized. And depending on the follow-up, that's the video that you're going to launch. So I feel like not me, because I learned it very, very early on. Again, look at how many people are in this community alone. Think about how many communities like this exist. There are tens and tens and tens of thousands of people trying to do what we do on a daily basis. They're all hitting the same list. They're all putting money on Google PPC to talk to the same sellers. They're all doing the same things. So what can we do as individuals that can stand out, even the name of this podcast, 1% different than everybody else that's doing what you're trying to do? Most people are trying to SMS blast, cold call. It's a numbers game. So they're treating it like a numbers game. What can we do to stand out? Well, we can at least try to touch them a different way than anybody else. Most people are scared of being seen on a screen. Most people don't want to get on the phone, so they don't want to record. Like, it's just that one extra little step that you can do to try. Because again, you record one video and you make that a part of your follow-up process. If you even close one deal from that, and that is a $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 deal, do you think it's worth taking 60 seconds out of your life to record one yourself or go make an AI avatar version of it and be able to implement that for that possible ROAS that you can receive for those follow-ups?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a phenomenal piece of advice. Matt, I'm going to ask you, I mean, clearly you're doing this now. How many people do you think respond positively to these videos? I know it's probably everyone, but I mean, what do the responses look like from the people that receive these videos?
I'll see if I can go find them too, because specifically when I was an agent, there's a bunch of different paid services like softwares that you can use. One that's been around forever is called bombbomb.com. So literally you can record a video and then you can make like a frame around it and make it custom to you. But bare minimum, you record a video, you send it through BombBomb. And what was cool about it back in the day was you send it via text. So it's not just email. You can send it through text. And when it shows up on your phone, it shows up as an animated GIF on your phone. So it plays like the first 3 seconds of the video animated in your text message. So you could make that first 3 seconds your hook, where like agents used to hold like a little whiteboard that would say like click me or whatever it was to catch their attention, or hey John, with the whiteboard in their hand, so they see that on their phone. And with BombBomb, what they would do is you could track the clicks on the video. So you would see exactly where they clicked. You could see how long they watched for, and then they could even respond to the video. So I'll see if I can go back in my emails. Dude, dozens and dozens and dozens of people would respond to my video that I would send them and say, hey, thanks for this video, whatever it was. And you would see how long they watched. And so again, that allows you to see, like, is this person actually not receiving my messages? Or if I see they open my BombBomb and watched 30 seconds of it, I know I still have something. They're still engaging in some sort of way. So I'll see if I can pull that up. But dude, it's absolutely. And it just gives you something for them to respond to. A blanket automated text, again, you're in a sea of other text messages. You are not the only person that they're talking to. Me and Carter got a guy in Toledo, Ohio right now. Every time he messages us back, he just talks about, well, I'll go back and, I'm talking to like 10 other people, so I'll see what they're offering. It's a competition. We all know that. So what else can we do to build rapport, to make us seem better than the other people, to show our professionalism, to touch them in a different way? Video. And then obviously any Google business profile reviews and all the other things you can add to yourself to make yourself seem better than these other people that are just LOI blasting or whatever, So I feel like that's one of the things that you can do that's so minimal in terms of take 60 seconds out of your day to make this, to increase your ROI overall. And BombBomb is, they're still doing it. There's obviously a lot more options now. Go High Level, if you're an agency owner of Go High Level, you have access to the marketplace. There's a couple in the marketplace that do things similar to that. And so, and you can, what's cool with BombBomb and other similar ones, you can build an automation out. So same way that you would do it in Go High Level, where you build out an automation workflow, you can do that with BombBomb and similar ones as well, where you're building out a workflow of videos that get sent out. You basically schedule them to get sent out. And then your CRM works in tandem with that video software. So different triggers, different things, those videos will get sent out.
Beautiful. Well, this is something I'd never considered, sending out a video. But it's funny that you mentioned it, because I remember one time I did receive a video. I did think it was a personalized video. After, meeting the guy, I knew it was, some automated video. But I did feel exactly what you were talking about. Like, no, this guy, he's actually looking forward to hopping on this call. We're going to talk about business. This is serious, right? Versus just another text. It's like you're saying, there's nothing that's making you stand out.
You're in the game, and AI, all of the, like, you're not just some 80-year-old that doesn't know anything. You're in the game, and you got a video and felt that way. So imagine what a normal seller who's not in the game, that's just a normal person who's not in technology, not in our space. We have access to marketplaces and apps and all of that. Imagine what they're feeling or thinking when they're receiving that video. So it's absolute, dude, and I'll see if I can find it. I made a video on it. I'll see if I can find it. There's a software similar to BombBomb, but what it is you record a video saying a specific phrase, because that phrase allows them to like mimic your mouth. Mm-hmm. And then all you have to do is, when a lead comes in and it has variables, it'll take their name and add it to the video. And then you can even have a green screen behind you. So basically it's for B2B. Like if you were a car wash and I was a person trying to market to car wash owners, whatever, I could put in your website, and then it automatically pulls your website, has it as a green screen in the background, pulls your name, and then in my video, I'm like, hey, John, even though I didn't record John, but it adds your name to the video. It looks natural. So you could do that with sellers as well, where it pulls the Google image of their house or the Zillow listing of their house, has it as a green screen in the background, says their name in the video. Like, there's so many levels of what you can do to personalize that video to where, again, the video I send doesn't mention any names, and that already feels somewhat personalized. Imagine if you took it a step above that and had their house in the back, in the green screen in the background, and you actually said their name in the video. Bro, a normal seller is gonna be like, oh shit, he actually took time to make this video for me.
Right. And what tool do you think we should use to make these types of videos? Do you have a recommendation beyond BombBomb, like for
I'll,
the AI?
no, well, BombBomb's good, but it's one of like the OGs. They've been around for 10 years probably, and I think they've gotten better. And it's always been good. But I'll find the one that I'm talking about with the green screen stuff, because I just was doing it the other couple months ago, and I made a video on it. And I was emailing with the owner on some stuff because I thought it was really cool, and like what the idea of what we could possibly do with it. And it linked up with Go High Level and the whole deal. It was awesome.
Just got the creative gears going, man. I'm thinking about how we might be able to implement this, especially for the people that have received that offer and you're doing the video follow up. Obviously, probably wouldn't make sense to do it straight cold, but you talk to them, you qualify them, they are motivated. Maybe you're just a little off on the price. There might be something we could do.
That's what I'm saying. And that's the thing. Like, obviously, once you're in this game for long enough, you know the scenarios that you see mostly, right? There's like 3, 4, 5 scenarios that you see with every seller lead that comes in. So just game plan it for the future. It's like you're a content creator. You're planning out your weekly videos to go post on YouTube. Have that same framework, but here I'm going to game plan the 5 scenarios that I usually see with sellers, and then those are the videos I'm going to make that I'm going to send out to sellers in these specific situations. And yeah, it's costly to do from like a cold outreach to send every single person. But again, if they respond, whatever the thing, once they're in your system and they've responded, now you can start implementing those videos and really see how it's going to. Because again, you guys think about if you were to do a poll in this group of all 20,000 people, just in this community alone that's doing outbound, you guys, what list do you pull? Everyone's going to be saying they pull relatively the same list. You guys are all talking to relatively the same people in the same markets, same list, same everything. So what are you going to do to stand out from the other guy that's got the same area code and it's talking about the same things? Hey, what's the roof condition? What's this? Asking the same questions. What are you going to do to just be 1% different from him to give yourself the opportunity to close that deal?
Well, I'll pose the challenge here to Jacob, since he threw himself here in the fire, and we want to see him succeed. Obviously, we want to see him close another deal this month. So I would pose the challenge to you to take this advice that we've all been generously given, implement it to all of your follow-ups, just that video of, hey, I know we were kind of like in the same ballpark on the price, but I want to see if there's something we could do to make this work or something along those lines. And let's see, if that can be the missing piece for you to close something this month.
Yeah. I mean, it's something I'm open to trying out. I'd have to, figure out how to get that implemented. But I mean, yeah, if I could get that all figured out and, get those videos sent, I mean, yeah, I'm open to try that.
Beautiful.
It at least gives you something to track, and then to see if it's, if it's not harming your business, it's no harm to leave it in there.
Yeah, exactly. Are you sending that like straight out of your CRM or like your cell, or like those
Yeah, we
videos
have.
where are you setting them from?
Yeah, I have a. It's kind of like a webhook. It's not like a direct thing, but yeah, it sends it from the CRM. And then if you have the ability, I can kind of see it in the side chat about sending blue messages, making it look like an iMessage. There's a couple programs for that, and there's ways to do that. Then that's where you start getting into where it starts looking as organic as possible. You start getting the, but yeah, we send it right out of our CRM. I'm trying to go in my Facebook right now because I made a post about it months ago. See if I can find it.
Yeah, I'd have to figure out how to get that to work from my CRM.
It's not that it's not complicated by any means. And like I said, if you have Go High Level and you're an agency owner or have the ability to have access to the marketplace, then you'll be able to see some other softwares that do things similar to like what BombBomb is doing and stuff like that.
Hmm. Yeah, I currently use RE Simply.
Yep. So then, yeah. So if you have, I don't know if because you're a sub account, right?
Yeah, like a monthly subscription.
Yeah. So if you have
Yeah.
access to the marketplace, you can look.
They're not on. I don't think they're GHL, Matt. I think they're something else.
That's Salesforce.
I don't
No,
know.
I think RE Simply is just their own thing.
Because I'm thinking of REI Reply. I know RE Simply.
Yeah, I'm on RE Simply. That's what I'm on.
Yeah. When I find the post, I'll put it in the chat when I find it later.
What's up, Ricky? Good morning to you, sir.
Hey, what's going on? I wanted to add on to Matt's point about the video messages. I want to say around February, I had a few parcels I was going to list in North Georgia that I owned. And I went with the team that sent me a video before the listing appointment. And my impression was, okay, I like their level of professionalism. They're going above and beyond. And like Matt was saying earlier, it worked on you because you're in the game. It worked on me too. So that it really does go
Yeah.
a long way. Like it really does.
That's what I'm saying.
definitely
You guys are in the business. That's what I'm saying. Like you guys know things that are out there and the things that we do. Like again, there's sellers out there that when you guys put them on a 6-month drip, they're so clueless that they think that you're manually sending these messages every month, or however often you're doing that. You're physically sitting there typing it out. So there are sellers out there that don't even know what a CRM is, what a workflow is, or automate, none of those things. And so if you have the ability to add video in any capacity, even if you have low lead volume or you have the ability, if you actually sit there and record a video for this specific person, it'll take you 60 seconds to do it, maybe even less. It's not going to hurt your business to do that.
Yeah, those text messages definitely get monotonous after a while. And like you said, if you close just one deal off of it, that's more than enough for the effort of a few minutes.
Oh, 100%. And that's kind of like, I say sending a video is like what they call running Facebook ads. Facebook ads is interruption scrolling, right? I'm interrupting your scroll with my Facebook ad. So a video is kind of the same idea of you're on a 6-month drip and you're just getting the same type of text messages and ringless voicemails, whatever. That video interrupts the pattern of what they're getting from you and probably 50 other people that are texting them about that property. Especially if it's outbound, especially if they didn't fill out any forms and people are just reaching out to them to buy their house. There's got to be something that's going to make them not want to tell you to go kill yourself because they've gotten 100 messages already that day.
And that has to be
Not to mention
seeing
with
your
the
beautiful
older
face,
sellers.
right? They can't say it to the face. They'll say it to the random guy sending the text
100.
messages. But
100%. And to be honest, I've never gotten a negative remark to a video that I've sent. It's never been bad. It's either nothing, or if they do respond, it's something positive, or hey, give me a call today, something along those lines. But never the type of responses you guys get with outbound. Like never.
yeah.
Because now they actually see, like they're not as informed as we are, so a lot of times they're not responding to you because they think you're spam. They don't think this is real, or they think it's, whatever. So when you send that video, how many times I've gotten responses that have been like, oh, I sorry, I haven't been responding because I this number was unknown, or it was coming up spam, or I thought whatever. So now they think it's real.
Love that. And you're sending these via text, correct?
Correct. Yeah, and you have the ability to send through email, like BombBomb and anything similar. They have they started with text and email, but they have a great email platform as well, where again you build out like a custom email template and then the video goes inside the template, and it's really nice. It has all you can put like your email signature and all your information and social links and whatever you want in that template for email. So they do really good with emails, and then text message as well. And text message, again, just if you were just doing it with like, again, for BombBomb and on your phone, because they have an app, it'll just send the video through the as a text to their phone, and it just shows up as a 3-second GIF. There's nothing else to it. There's no links. There's no nothing. It's legit as if I was sending you a video to your phone.
Okay, because I've sent videos or text or videos through a Go High Level, and it always does the lead connector link, and that's kind of my fear is.
So there's ways to but if you send and it also depends on file size too when you're sending videos with Go High Level too. So the bigger, even images, if you attach too many images, it'll do the lead connector link as well. So you kind of have to play around with the video size, and then again, there's some stuff in the marketplace that allows you to send it directly without any link.
That's good to know there's a way around it. I just assumed that it would always do that, but it's good to know.
Because I think even on your, like if you have the Go High Level app,
Yeah.
I think you can do it where, again, if you do it where you're uploading a file, if the file is too big, if the file is a video and it's too big, it's going to send it as a lead connector link. But there's a way where if you do it either on your phone through the app, you were to actually record a video in real time, you can record it and send it without the link as well.
Dropping gems.
Yep.
There's a couple ways to do it.
Hey, that gem alone right there, collectively in here, probably made 100 racks.
Yep.
Yesterday when he dropped about everybody gets an offer, another 100 racks.
Yep.
Collectively, if not more.
I'm kind of pissed I even brought it up, actually.
Matt
Are
can't
you?
help himself, man. He wants to help everybody.
Right, I mean, there's
succeed,
really
ladies and
no-
gentlemen.
There's really no point in, I love you guys, but, what's the point of now everyone's getting videos, sent to them and everything.
Hold on. I was driving. Say
It's
that one more
whoever
time.
actually does it, though.
What's up, Ernesto?
What's going on, fella?
And that's true, Matt. There are a lot of people in here that will see this stuff and they'll think, "Oh, that's sauce, that's fire," but they won't implement it. And
When's your birthday, Matt?
it's
Coming up July 10th.
Yeah, let's specify, man. Let's get specific.
Yeah.
Give me a day. And the reason I bring that up, I mean, you're dropping all these gems. I mean, at the bare minimum, we got to reciprocate and buy you a giant cake or something,
What did he say the other night? He said, "What did he say? Favors don't pay me to take my wife to dinner. Pay for my wife's dinner. Favors don't pay for my wife's dinner." That's right.
It was like,
That's
I
what I'm
would
saying,
reciprocate the favor. Favor, I can't take my wife to dinner with a favor.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But we got to reciprocate in some ways, man, because you really are dropping gems. And like I said, it's making a lot. It's going to turn a lot of ideas into money. So we got to reciprocate.
I'm glad that John's doing the live stream again. So I think whatever gets people motivated to get back in here and to do what they say they're going to do, whatever it takes.
Yeah, but it brings me back to the question: when's your birthday, man?
July 10th. We're only
Okay, there we go.
Month and a half away. Whatever.
Mark your calendars, everybody. Mark your calendars. July 10th.
We're going to go ahead, and at 12 a.m., we're all going to come here and sing him happy birthday.
No, we got to do more than that. It's the start.
The July 10th live stream.
You got to give folks their flowers, man.
Happy birthday from the front lawn.
Matt, what do you like, roses or tulips? Roses or tulips?
All right, y'all. I'm gonna go.
Yep.
I'm gonna get ready for the morning or the afternoon, I should say.
Well, thank you.
Right on, brother.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, Ernesto, Ricky, and everybody joining us in the audience. Everybody in the chat: Dalton, Steve, Liam, those that I can see, CT off the cuff. Everybody that I haven't mentioned. Appreciate everybody for coming to join us to become 1% better each day. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, make sure that you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. All right, I'm going to drop it here in the side chat. And invite somebody you think would benefit from being in proximity with us. If you know somebody, I'm speaking to you, and you have not invited them to come and be in here, you are doing yourself a disservice, and you're slamming out your friend. So you gotta bring them in here, ladies and gentlemen. Send them that link, discord.gg/REI Rev. Absolutely free to join and be in here. Till tomorrow, we'll catch you in the next one. Take care, everybody.